What compliment did you receive years ago that you still think about? The most memorable compliment came from the widow of the deceased man directly after his funeral service. She stopped by the organ console before proceeding to the cemetery. With a gentle smile, this lovely lady said, "I just want to thank you for the uplifting music you played for my husband's funeral. You turned what could have been a very solemn, sad occasion into a true celebration of his life." About a week later, the church received a substantial check from her for the music program and for us to perform Mozart's Requiem, with orchestra, in her husband's memory. I used to bring baked goods and dinners over to my elderly neighbor when he couldn't out of the house any longer. Prior to this, he would actually come to my house for dinner. Unfortunately, dementia was overtaking him near the end. Once when I had brought dinner over, he asked me if I knew the lady next door. He told me she's an excellent cook. I told him I did know her. So nice, still makes me smile. While in middle school, I had this one teacher who I was very close with because she helped me cope with my mental illness. I talked to her every single day, and once I was in high school, we maintained contact until I was a sophomore. She became the principal of a new school. Freshman year of high school, I was in a mental hospital due to panic attacks that were so crippling I became suicidal. I really missed my teacher, but one day she surprised me at the hospital. When I saw her, I started sobbing. I gave her a big hug, and we sat down to have a conversation. At one point while we were talking, she said, "I am so proud of you." I was confused because I was in the hospital for admitting I had a suicide plan. When I asked her why, she said, "You reached out for help. You are so brave, and the strongest person I know." I miss that woman so much, and I appreciate her for everything she did for me. I was walking down a major street in a big city, with a big, blonde mohawk, and enjoying not getting the glares I was used to in my smaller town, when a carload of girls drove by and one leaned out the window and screamed, "Sexy hair, baby." Every time I try to contribute to conversations, I feel like everyone in talks over and disregards me. Because of this, I make it my personal goal to give the person speaking/trying to be heard my full attention. One day, my friend was telling a story and no one was paying attention. She stopped short and said, "Every time I talk, I look at you because I know you're listening to me and want to hear what I have to say. You don't know how much that means to me." I think for me it was getting compliments about having nice teeth and someone saying my teeth were really white. I've always been insecure about my teeth. As a kid they were really yellow, I guess from all the sodas and reluctance to brush and all the food coloring and all that jazz. I remember being insecure about it as early as 3rd grade, but it got worse in 6th when working with a classmate. We were working well together and joking around, and as I laughed he just went deadpan and said, "Man, your teeth are yellow." Not a joke. Not banner. Just an incredulous observation. I used to obsess over it, but I've calmed down a bit. Getting that compliment helped. My teeth don't need to be perfect. I think I just needed to cancel out that experience. I'm fine with average teeth. Having a co-worker that didn't know me well at the time just unsolicited and incredulously be like, "Man, your teeth are white, how do you do it?" was a friggin' elixir. Compliments can be powerful. Age 18, at the lake with some friends. One asks me if I'm gonna take off my shirt like the other guys. Why not? Just for a minute? Oh, come on. Hesitated, made excuses, eventually caved after repeated pestering. Stood there humiliated, figuring that this could only be some sort of freak show curiosity. She was silent for a second. I think you're very attractive. Hadn't expected that, especially from someone like herself. The typewriting monkeys upstairs managed to come up with "Wow, thanks. That's really saying something coming from you." Few more seconds passed in silence. Then, being an awkward potato and an idiot, I regressed, shuffled away, and never brought the incident up again. Still, she unwittingly cured my crippling self-image problem that day, which was kind of a life changer. So that's nice. My friend took this really bad photo of me a few years ago in undergrad and posted it on Snapchat one day. One of her guy friends messaged her asking for my name because he thought I was cute. She told him my name and he went, "Wow. She looks like a diamond from Sierra Leone." Never dated the guy because I had a boyfriend at the time, and we became pretty cool acquaintances for a while after due to shared friend groups. But I still think about that compliment to this day, and it's been like 4 years. I'm from the southern US and in my early 40s, ugh, don't judge, and have had this same issue for the last 10 years or so. I smile when I meet new people, say hi, and try to hold doors open or give way in crowded areas. When I go to NYC I'm looked at like I'm slow. When I go overseas, especially to Eastern Europe, people act like I'm trying to gain something. I'm really just trying to make someone's day a little better with every interaction. When I was in San Francisco a few years ago I was being driven around by my manager. I joked about how our 1-hour commute would have taken 3 hours because I would have waved people out of side streets during traffic. I ran a powerlifting club in high school. I got many people to at least try it and come to a couple meets. One day in chemistry class, we wrote positive affirmations for each other for World Kindness Day or something like that. I wrote my note for this boy named Lou. I had never spoken to him much really, but I wrote his affirmation as, "You are much stronger and more capable than you could ever imagine." Lou joined my powerlifting club a couple of weeks later. He had shown some interest in it. He was rather large, overweight. He got into it very fast and was in every single day. He worked hard to lose weight and become strong, which he did. We grew pretty close for that period of time, and he helped me run this club. That was many years ago. I saw him last year and we went for coffee to catch up. He had lost 100 pounds and had progressed so much. I did not recognize him at all. He then said, "You were honestly the reason I joined powerlifting and got this far. You believed in me and you were so kind to me in high school. I had to join to see more of you and get strong." There in his phone case was the positive note I wrote to him. Dirty and a little crumpled. Still there. From years before. I cried. I was on the market in an old part of a town buying a traditional shirt. If you're interested, it's called Vyshyvanka. And I was not sure about what I was trying on. While I was spunning in front of the mirror, a middle-aged man was walking through. He has looked like an old aristocrat, and at the same time he reminded me of a good neighbor who will always help repair your faucet or tell a funny story about the times of his youth. He saw me, stopped for a while, smiled and said, "Don't worry, you're beautiful," and then he walked away. It was very nice, and about 4 years have passed, but I'm still grateful to this man for raising my self-esteem that day. Yeah, how little I need for happiness. Smile. This wasn't directed at me, but it's one of my favorite stories. I went to a friend's house for dinner and she showed up a little late, coming from the grocery store with her husband and somewhat rowdy kids. The cashier had complimented her blue eyes. She has a very piercing gaze, totally mesmerizing. And she was trying to compliment the cashier's brown eyes. My friend loves brown eyes, her husband has brown eyes, and so do her kids. She thinks brown eyes are the prettiest eyes. So she's trying to express that for her, brown eyes are the kind of eyes that she gets lost in and just totally falls for. But what she says is, "Oh thank you. I get lost in your eyes." She was laughing so hard she was almost crying when she told me this story, and she said they had all had a good laugh about it at the store. I remember years later, and I have no doubts that the cashier remembers. 2 years ago I was second in line for the 100-meter dash at a track meet, and this girl in front of me turns around and genuinely says to me, "You are so pretty." No context, and anyone with eyes could see she was far prettier than me. But for someone who'd been struggling with self-image, too dark, too short, too heavy, etc., ever since some dumb bully broke my nose almost a decade ago, it meant a lot. To this day I wonder if it was just part of a psychological experiment, or if she was talking to someone behind me. But it made me realize that you always have to be kind to people. You never know how much of an impact it can make on them. It's kind of a bittersweet one. My ex broke up with me, but as she did, she told me she didn't regret spending all that time with me in the slightest. That was probably the best thing she could have said at that moment. My poor little heart couldn't have taken an insult instead. We're still in sporadic contact to this day and she's such a sweetheart. I still think about what we had sometimes, on those late lonely nights where I can't sleep. Was working at a grocery store when I was 19. I had medium-length blonde hair, blue eyes and pale skin. A regular local would usually come with his toddler son in tow. The kid was super well-behaved and very social. He'd sometimes babble at me while I was checking their groceries out, and even though I wasn't a huge fan of kids, I always caught myself babbling back. As they were leaving one day, I heard the toddler say bye-bye. Something. The dad stopped and turned around and said, "Did you hear what he just called you?" I shook my head no, and Dad replied he said bye-bye Cinderella. To this day even my husband has not matched that ego-boosting compliment.